Hello. Today we visit an old post from r/AskReddit to see what is the creepiest thing your young child has ever said to you. Make sure to comment anything weird a kid has said to you and make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. With that, sit back and enjoy. I was tucking in my 2-year-old. He said, "Goodbye, Dad." I said, "No, we say good night." He said, "I know. But this time it's goodbye." Had to check on him a few times to make sure he was still there. Check on him? If I were you, I'd be sleeping with one eye open. The next morning your son realizes the assassins he has hired were actually just Lego minifigures. This will never be seen, but he has a rather creepy habit. He has maybe 30 Lego minifigs. All but one of them have no head. The one with a head? It has all of the heads. 4 solid inches of Lego head on a 1-inch body. It just stands on his desk, 60 eyes staring at the headless masses. Your child will lead armies. Whether they're on the side of good or evil is still uncertain. While changing my daughter in front of the open closet door, she kept looking around me and laughing. I asked her what was so funny. She said, "The man." To which I replied, "What man?" She then pointed at the closet and said, "The man with the snake neck." I turn around and nothing was there. I'm afraid to look into the history of my house to see if anyone hung themselves in the closet. At least she wasn't scared. The man with the snake neck. Welp, I think I'm done with this thread. Nope, 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 nope. Daddy sleep, then pushing my head underwater at the pool. Not to me, but to his grandmother. He was cuddling with her and being very sweet. He was about 3 at the time. He takes her face in his hands, and brings his face close to hers, then tells her that she's very old, and will die soon. Then he makes a point of looking at the clock. My nephew of 3 were trying to understand why his great-grandfather was buried, dead, not here anymore. So there we are at the graveyard, looking at his headstone, when another family comes along. Among them an elderly man. "Nephew, is he going to die too?" It was rather awkward since this stranger family were approaching us, and he was obviously pointing. My 3-year-old daughter stood next to her newborn brother and looked at him for a while, then turned and looked at me and said, "Daddy, it's a monster. We should bury it." Congratulations on giving birth to the Antichrist. To be fair, babies look ducking weird. Especially hot off the press. I was on a bus recently and we were stopped outside a walk-in clinic. A little girl in the seat in front of me turned to her dad and said, "Death is the poor man's doctor." And that was that. Edit, never realized this was an Irish proverb. Context, I'm Irish. Jesus, that girl sounds metal as duck. When I was about 3 we had a cat that had stillborn kittens. I asked my father if we could make crosses for them, which he did. As he was making them I asked, "Aren't those too small?" "Dad, what do you mean?" "Me, aren't we going to nail them to them?" "Dad," after several moments silence, "we're not going to do that." Me, "Oh." I'm trying to imagine your father's mind at that point. God, why did I have to drink that night? I jokingly asked, "What's the best way to get a girlfriend?" 7-year-old's response, "Tell her to be my girlfriend or she'll never see her parents again." I think that's from the Fairly Odd Parents. When Timmy was sending Trixie a love letter, his dad added a part about never seeing her parents again. It makes sense in the episode, sort of, trust me. Why are you crying? Bad man. What bad man? There. Points behind me at a dark corner of the room. Lamp on bookshelf next to said darkened corner falls off as soon as I turn to look. She slept in our bed that night. Maybe she didn't say, "Bad man," but, "Batman." Thanks, that made me laugh and subsequently feel 70% less creeped out. This sort of relates. It still makes me laugh hysterically. My childhood friend recently found his journal from when he was about 6 or 7. One entry said something along the lines of, "Sometimes mommy gardens. Sometimes daddy works inside the house. When daddy thinks I'm with mommy, and mommy thinks I'm with daddy, sometimes I like to go into the neighbor's garage and play with their dangerous tools." For some reason I find this to be hysterical, specifically tricking the parents and the dangerous tools part. He has no recollection of this happening. When my daughter was 4.5 years old she said to me, "Why did you name me Carly when my real name is Carly? I was inside you and I came out too soon and later on I was inside you and came out at the right time." How could she have possibly known that I had a miscarriage when I was 5 months pregnant? I was talking about naming the baby Carl if it was a boy or Carly if it was a girl. We never discussed it at all. Later on she said, when you fighting with Da about him smashing the car all up and he was drinking, you made me feel all sad. I was 5 months pregnant with her at the time when my husband was charged with DUI and he wrecked our car. She later on said that her uncle Rob came and wanted her to go with him. She told him that she couldn't go with him because it wasn't time for her to die. She didn't have an Uncle Rob. This sparked an urge to do some family genealogy where we then found that a man named Rob had died in 1849. She still sees and hears things that only she sees and hears. She is 31 now and can sometimes tell us about something that is going to happen to us in the future. She has never been wrong yet. She really scared me one night when she told me that I used to be able to float an inch above the ground and that is how I got around, and she said that I was really surprised that I was the only one that could do it. Creepy beyond words. My 2-year-old has been running from rooms screaming lately. The reason is always, a guy. A guy. I'd go in the room and ask what was the matter. She would point into the empty room, terrified, whispering, a guy. At first I thought I'd need to rethink everything I thought I believed about ghosts. Then, I realized, a guy, was actually, a fly. She is terrified of flies. Well, I mean, the letters F and G are right next to each other. That seems like a pretty common typo. My 5-year-old son asked me last week, what do you see through the black circles in my eyes when you're controlling me when I'm at school? Psychologist here, perfect example of the lack of differentiation at that age. Little kids have no idea that minds are separate. That's why you can tell them, if you misbehave at school, I will know, and they believe it. That's why, when you ask them what they did at school all day, they are dismissive or have nothing to tell you, they think you already know. That's really interesting, I never actually thought of it like that. I immediately told him, I don't control you, and he just said, oh, and went on his way. I'm curious to know more of how the world works through his eyes though. So I shouldn't throw him in the fire? 3-year-old daughter holding her baby brother for the first time. Why don't you just give me that baby back? Which is exactly what I said. I was sound asleep, and at around 6 a.m. I was woken up by my 4-year-old daughter's face inches from mine. She looked right into my eyes and whispered, I want to peel all your skin off. The backstory here is I had been sunburned the previous week, and was starting to peel. In my sleep-addled state however, it was pretty terrifying for a few seconds. I didn't know if I was dreaming, or what was going on. Eliminate the backstory and you win this Reddit. I don't have kids, but once, visiting some friends on a farm, my buddy's youngest girl, 5 or 6 at the time, was afraid of the chickens. I tried to explain to her that the chickens weren't there to hurt us, but she wasn't having it. So I'm sitting around the fire pit, looking at one of the chickens a few feet in front of me when I feel hot breath in my ear as she whispers, see, he's always watching. Horrific and hysterical all at once. Yeah, if you really want something horrifying, it's ducks. Why? Well, when I was around 5, me and my brother, he was 7 or 8 at this time, got treed by a flock of ducks by the lake. And by treed I mean really we ran to the park's playground and climbed the ladder like the pebbles that they fill playgrounds with was lava. Strangely, these ducks didn't fly up to attack, so obviously they sense fear. Let me tell you man, ducks. They're evil, but amazing. My son, about 6, asked my mother to lay down on her stomach. Then he sat on her butt and started bouncing up and down and proclaimed, now we're mating like reptiles. Thanks Discovery Channel. My co-worker's 4-year-old daughter always thought that the rattling of the water pipes in the kitchen cupboards were white wolves, and the sound always scared her. One day she was sitting at the kitchen table and she said, Mom, the white wolves aren't bad. They're our friends. Her mom encouraged the idea by saying, yes. The white wolves are protecting us. They are our friends. Then her daughter added in, they're our friends, but not the man who crawls on the floor and stands by my bed. I work in a preschool. Creepy shit gets said and done all the time. The one that sticks out to me happened last year. There is a small kitchenette area in our classroom that the kids use during free time for playing house or whatever pretend games they think up. There was one little girl that I was keeping a close eye on, mostly because of how withdrawn from the other kids she was. I noticed she was playing with a baby doll in the kitchenette, rocking it back and forth and singing to it. She then took the baby, shoved it into the play oven and slammed the door shut. She turned around, looked straight at me, and said, "Sometimes bad babies go in timeout," in the creepiest little girl voice I've ever heard before, smiling and running off. That one kind of shook me. This isn't scary creepy, more just uncomfortable creepy, while also being the most hilarious thing to happen to me ever. It's my favorite story from my years of teaching in a daycare preschool. It was nap time, and as any preschool teacher knows, most kids don't appreciate naps as much as they should. They will do anything to get off of their cots, usually ask to go to the bathroom because they know we can't say no. If we do, they piss their pants. Assholes. I let this little boy, we will call him Chris, use the bathroom. He had been gone for a while, so I went to check on him and found him standing in front of the bathroom mirror, dick in hand, just checking out his manhood. I said, "Chris, what are you doing in here? Time to get back on your cot." He turns around and looks at me, and while shaking his dick around in his hand says, "Miss Tasha's DeRooser, I'm going to put my penis on your face." I tried really hard to walk away before I laughed, because if you laugh at something a kid does, those little duckers will just do it over and over again. I would have been successful if the teacher in the other room didn't yell back, without hesitation, "You're not the first guy to tell her that, Chris." My toddler went through a phase where she would just constantly say, "Hi," to things. Hi 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 hi. One day, it came out sounding more like, "Die die 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 die." So I say to her, "What's that you're saying?" And she turns to face me and just whispers, "D." I just imagined that as her head turned 180 like in The Exorcist and said that. I'd be out of that ducking house and calling every priest I could find. Dang. I have a recording the parents made of me doing the exact same thing at age 1, playing peek-a-boo and laughing my head off, then suddenly die 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 die. When I was a waitress, I watched a little girl, 4-ish, stab her plastic fork into her sandwich repeatedly, saying, "Die die 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 die." When I asked her what she was doing, her mom was in the bathroom for a minute. She replied with a straight face, "I like to kill things, but mom says I shouldn't. So I picked the ham because it can't scream." My niece was sitting on the couch with a weird look on her face. Her mom asked her what she was thinking about, and she said, "I'm imagining the waves of blood rushing over me." Turned out they had been at a local science museum with an exhibit on the circulatory system. One of the features was a walk among some giant fake blood vessels, and she was remembering that. When my son was little, he, maybe 3, he used to do this weird crawl where he would slide his forehead along the floor. That was pretty creepy in itself. Then one night he crawled across the hallway into my room like that and stood up a few inches from my face and made a weird meow sound. He got into bed with me and went to sleep. Another time he was freaking out about a monster in the basement, so we went down and saw nothing, of course, and as I turned out the light and headed upstairs, and he said, "He's right behind us now." I might have peed a little. Possibly the creepiest thing he did was one day I scolded him for misbehaving, so he hid his head under his blanket. I pretended I couldn't find him by saying, "Where is my little Carson?" He slowly lowered the blanket and with a dead evil stare said, "Carson is gone, I am Rick." I'm certain he's possessed. We never knew any Ricks, as far I can remember. Still don't. Never figured out where he picked up the name. You were Rick rolled. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching all the way until the end, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment anything weird a kid has said to you. If you want to continue to watch my content, click the video up above. Until next time.